On screen now is English graphic designer and music video director Storm Thorgersen, and he died at the age of 69 on this day in 2013. For those who don't know, he was co-founder of Hipgnosis designer company, a person responsible for creating some of the most memorable and iconic album artwork in the genre, and a name synonymous with the great Roger Dean. Having been close friends with Sid, Roger and David from Pink Floyd, the firm will forever be associated with Pink Floyd. However, other bands gradually started to use their services. In this video, I'm counting down his 10 most famous pieces of art, according to Far Out magazine, in a poll that was conducted on the 28th of February 2022. We'll have a look at each piece of artwork, and I'll provide some additional information where I can. And if you have any comments, add them to the description below. Now, these are shown in date order. Note that a one album cover per band rule was implemented for this. From 1971, the first album cover featured is Electric Warrior by T-Rex. As Hipgnosis began to become more well-known and expand, other groups, apart from Floyd, started to commission their services, and here T-Rex was one of the very first. It was a cover that featured Mark Bolan with his guitar in hand, standing in front of his amplifiers in that classic rock star pose. Thorgersen then increased the contrast until Bolan became a silhouette really, with a glow around him. It was an impressive and distinctive picture that epitomised the Electric Warrior album as that archetype rock and roll cover. From 1973, we have probably the best known of all Thorgersen covers with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. The art came from a simple request by Rick Wright, who wanted something simple and bold. Thorgersen took inspiration from the band's light show, from Wright's instructions, and from the themes on the record. The result became an intrinsic part of music and would become Thorgersen's calling card for the rest of his life. Also from 1973 was the Roy Harper album Life Mask. Now, he was in hospital at the time of this album, potentially so bad that Harper inevitably became obsessed with thoughts of death. This was manifested in the final track, which became really his last will and testament as part of a 23-minute closer. Storm cast a death mask for Harper and included it on the album's cover. He also made the album open from the centre to reveal a picture of Harper while he was still alive, just to balance things out. This was the sort of lateral thinking that he and Hipgnosis became known for. Again in 1973 is the front cover of the Wings album, Band on the Run. The band were now essentially a trio at this point with Paul and Linda and also Denny Lane. So additional entertainment and sporting figures were added to the cover to look as if the band were escaping from prison. Celebrities included actors Christopher Lee and James Coburn, leading interviewer of the time Michael Parkinson, and boxer John Conte, amongst others. Strictly speaking, although the cover was photographed by Clive Arrowsmith, the influence of Storm was really all over this one. In 1974, I was delighted that the cover for The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by my band Genesis received the Thorgersen treatment. He chose to depict 3 different scenes featuring the main character, Rael. The first 2 visuals depict him during the songs in the rapids and riding the scree, while the third has Rael escape from the picture and look back on the first 2 scenes. Peter Gabriel was so pleased with the results that he would later employ Thorgersen for the covers of his first 3 solo albums. It was a great success, and if I was ranking these, it would certainly be my number 1. In 1978, he designed the cover for the XTC album Go 2. This turned out to be a real left field cover for this one, as it consisted of a lengthy single paragraph piece of writing on a plain black background. It was designed to be a kind of protest article against record companies, asking the record buying public to pay more where extravagant artwork was utilised. In 1979, he designed the cover for In Through the Outdoor for Led Zeppelin, which was a chance for the artist to make amends for what was considered a disappointing first effort for the Houses of the Holy album. More on that story later. So for this album, He took 6 slightly different shots of the main image from the perspective of others in the bar. He then designed a plain brown paperback cover, so buyers would not necessarily know which version they got. As a final surprise, if water was poured onto the black and white photo, it would become a colour picture. That's really clever. In 1980, we focused on his design for the third Peter Gabriel album, also known as Melt. As those first 4 albums were all self-titled, the artwork created by Thorgersen was regarded as the best way to differentiate between them all. During the 90s, his output slowed somewhat, but in 1997 he designed the cover for a nautical concept album, The Mollusk, by experimental rock duo Ween. Now, he took a real shine to this album, as he created extra promotional material for the band at no extra cost. Rounding up the examples of some of his covers in this video, in 2003, the Mars Volta released Deloused in the Crematorium. Suffering from ill health, Storm had begun to cut down his direct involvement in producing album covers, and one of the last ones he did was the cover for the Mars Volta. As a subject matter, I don't think it could have been much harder. A man who enters a coma after overdosing on morphine and rat poison. Can you think of one? He created a gold, illuminated head with light pouring out from an open mouth. Undoubtedly, the weirder the topic, the more he embraced the actual subject. Looking back, 1973, it was a good year for Thorgersen. 3 of his most iconic works, as well as covers completed for the Electric Light Orchestra and Humble Pie, to mention just a couple. Now, returning to that Led Zeppelin Houses of the Holy album, his original designer defended Jimmy Page as he had visually indicated that they were making a racket. Thorgersen's Hipgnosis co-founder, Aubrey Powell, ended up getting the job instead. His final iconic cover was for Paul McCartney's band Wings and their album Band on the Run. And I hope you've enjoyed this look at some of Storm's more individual covers. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't, and leave me a comment on your favourite covers. Your opinions are really greatly valued.